How wolf became dog. Scientists are racing to solve the enduring mystery of how a large, dangerous carnivore evolved into our best friend. When you have cared for dogs and wild wolves from the time they are little more than a week old and have bottle-fed and nurtured them day and night, you are wise to their differences. Since 2008, Zofia Viranyi, an ethologist at the Wolf Science Center in Austria, and her colleagues have been raising the two species to figure out what makes a dog and a wolf a wolf. At the center, the researchers oversee and study 4 packs of wolves and 4 packs of dogs, containing anywhere from 2 to 6 animals each. They have trained the wolves and dogs to follow basic commands, to walk on leashes, and to use their nose to tap the screen of a computer monitor so that they can take cognition tests. Yet, despite having lived and worked with the scientists for 7 years, the wolves retain an independence of mind and behavior that is most undog-like. You can leave a piece of meat on a table and tell one of our dogs, "No," and he will not take it, Viranyi says. But the wolves ignore you. They'll look you in the eye and grab the meat, a disconcerting assertiveness that she has experienced on more than one occasion. And when this happens, she wonders yet again how the wolf ever became the domesticated dog. You can't have an animal, a large carnivore, living with you and behaving like that, she says. You want an animal that's like a dog, one that accepts no. Dogs' understanding of the absolute no may be connected to the structure of their packs, which are not egalitarian like those of the wolves, but dictatorial, the center's researchers have discovered. Wolves can eat together, Viranyi notes. Even if a dominant wolf flashes its teeth and growls at a subordinate, the lower-ranked member does not move away. The same is not true in dog packs, however. Subordinate dogs will rarely eat at the same time as the dominant one, she observes. They don't even try. Their studies also suggest that rather than expecting to cooperate on tasks with humans, dogs simply want to be told what to do. How the independent-minded egalitarian wolf changed into the obedient, waiting-for-orders dog, and what role ancient humans played in achieving this feat baffle Viranyi. I try to imagine how they did it, and I really can't. Viranyi is not alone in her bafflement. Although researchers have successfully determined the time, location, and ancestry of nearly every other domesticated species, from sheep to cattle, to chickens to guinea pigs, they continue to debate these questions for our best friend, Canis familiaris. Scientists also know why humans developed these other domesticated animals, to have food close at hand, but they do not know what inspired us to allow a large wild carnivore into the family homestead. Yet dogs were the first domesticated species, a status that makes the mystery of their origin that much more perplexing. As inscrutable as the mystery is, scientists are piecing it together. In the past few years, they have made several breakthroughs. They can now say with confidence that, contrary to received wisdom, dogs are not descended from the gray wolf species that persists today across much of the northern hemisphere, from Alaska to Siberia to Saudi Arabia, but from an unknown and extinct wolf. They are also certain that this domestication event took place while humans were still hunter-gatherers and not after they became agriculturalists, as some investigators had proposed. At what time and in what location wolves became dogs, and whether it was only a one-time event, are questions that a large research team, composed of once competing scientists, has just started to tackle. The researchers are visiting museums, universities, and other institutions around the world to study collections of canine fossils and bones, and they are readying genetic samples from ancient and modern dogs and wolves for the most comprehensive comparison to date. When they are finished, they will be very close to knowing when and where, if not exactly how, wolves first began down the path toward becoming our trusted companions. Answers to these questions will complement the growing body of evidence for how humans and dogs influenced one another after that relationship was first forged. When modern humans arrived in Europe perhaps 45,000 years ago, they encountered the gray wolf and other types of wolves, including the megafaunal wolf, which pursued large game such as mammoths. By that time, wolves had already proved themselves among the most successful and adaptable species in the canid family, having spread across Eurasia to Japan and into the Middle East and North America. They were not confined to a single habitat type, but flourished in tundra, steppelands, deserts, forests, coastal regions, and the high altitude of the Tibetan Plateau. And they competed with the newly arrived humans for the same prey: mammoths, deer, aurochs, woolly rhinoceroses, antelopes, and horses. In spite of this competition, one type of wolf, perhaps a descendant of a megafaunal wolf, apparently began living close to people. For many years, scientists concurred on the basis of small portions of the genome that this species was the modern gray wolf, Canis lupus, and that this canid alone gave rise to dogs. But last January, geneticists discovered that this long-held fact was wrong. Repeated interbreeding between gray wolves and dogs, which share 99.9% of their DNA, had produced misleading signals in the earlier studies. Such consorting between the two species continues today. Wolves with black coats receive the gene for that color from a dog. Shepherd dogs in Georgia's Caucasus Mountains mate so often with the local wolves that hybrid ancestors are found in both species populations, and between 2 and 3% of the sampled animals are first-generation hybrids. Building on the admixture theme, in June, researchers writing in Current Biology reported on the sequencing of DNA from a 35,000-year-old wolf fossil from Siberia. This species appears to have contributed DNA to high-latitude dogs, such as huskies, through ancient interbreeding. Analyzing whole genomes of living dogs and wolves, last January's study revealed that today's Fidos are not the descendants of modern gray wolves. Instead, the two species are sister taxa, descended from an unknown ancestor that has since gone extinct. It was such a long-standing view that the gray wolf we know today was around for hundreds of thousands of years, and that dogs derived from them, says Robert Wayne, an evolutionary geneticist at the University of California, Los Angeles. We're very surprised that they're not. Wayne led the first genetic studies proposing the ancestor-descendant relationship between the two species, and more recently was one of the 30 co-authors of the latest study, published in PLOS Genetics, that debunked that notion. More surprises may come from renewed efforts to nail down the timing and location of dog domestication. Previous studies left a confusing trail. The first analysis, carried out in 1997, focused on the genetic differences between dogs and gray wolves, and concluded that dogs may have been domesticated some 135,000 years ago. A later study by some members of the same group indicated that dogs originated in the Middle East. But another analysis, which examined the DNA of 1,500 modern dogs that was published in 2009, argued that dogs were first domesticated in southern China less than 16,300 years ago. Then, in 2013, a team of scientists compared the mitochondrial genomes of ancient European and American dogs and wolves with their modern counterparts. It concluded that dogs originated in Europe between 32,000 and 19,000 years ago. Evolutionary biologist Gregor Larson of the University of Oxford, who is co-leading the recently launched multidisciplinary dog domestication project, says the previous studies, while important, have shortcomings. He faults the 1997 and 2009 studies for relying solely on DNA from modern dogs, and the last one for its geographically limited samples. You can't solve this problem by using modern animals alone as windows to the past, Larson says. The studies of modern dog DNA are not sufficiently informative, he explains, because people have moved and interbred dogs around the world numerous times, blurring their genetic heritage. Any regional signatures that might have helped identify where they were domesticated has long since been lost. To further muddy the picture, wolves have a ridiculously broad distribution across the world, Larson explains. In contrast, he points out, the ancestors of most other domesticated species, such as sheep and chickens, had much smaller geographical ranges, making it far easier to trace their origins. Larson suspects that several geographically disparate populations of the ancestral wolf species may have contributed to the making of today's dog. It would not be the first time such a thing happened. Larson has shown that pigs were domesticated twice, once in the Near East and once in Europe. Intriguingly, enigmatic fossils from Belgium, the Czech Republic, and southwestern Siberia that date to between 36,000 and 33,000 years ago, and exhibit a mix of wolf and dog features, hint at the possibility of at least 3 independent instances of domestication attempts from an ancestral wolf. But the anatomical characteristics of these fossils alone cannot answer the question of where dogs came from. To solve the dog domestication puzzle, Larson and his collaborators are using 2 key techniques employed in the pig study. They are undertaking a more thorough analysis of thousands of modern and ancient samples of dog and wolf DNA from individuals across the globe and are using a fairly new technique for measuring bones. This is the end of Part 1. Stay tuned for Part 2. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel.